Lee Nam-yong's long commentary, AI doctors and 24-hour hospitals, will human doctors disappear? Hello, this is Lee Nam-yong Professor TV. AI doctors are already inside the consultation room. Many citizens still think that AI doctors belong to a distant future, but measured against global standards, the medical field has already moved to a completely different stage. In leading hospitals around the world, X-rays, CT scans and MRI images are first read by artificial intelligence, and human doctors conduct routine consultations by reviewing those AI results. AI is already identifying the size and location of tumors, the shadows of pneumonia, and signs of cerebral hemorrhage. This is not a movie. It is our present reality. Korea is no exception. In the emergency departments, intensive care units, radiology departments, and ECG reading systems of major hospitals, AI algorithms are already embedded. They triage who should be seen first, and they highlight dangerous values among thousands of test results. The real question is no longer, should we use AI or not, but rather, on what philosophy and on what structure will we place AI? If we simply import AI without proper design, we risk placing yet another monster on top of an already distorted healthcare system. How much of a doctor's work is creative and how much is mechanical? From the perspective of relational philosophy, a doctor's work falls into two broad categories. One part is mechanical and repetitive, the other is creative and about designing relationships, entering data into patient questionnaires, repeating the same prescriptions for patients with similar symptoms, and manually searching through thousands of images for tiny abnormal shadows are, frankly speaking, mechanical and repetitive tasks. These are tasks that artificial intelligence can perform faster, more accurately, and for longer hours. In this domain, for a human doctor to insist, "I can do it better," is an anachronistic claim. Yet there is another side to the job. Even with the same diagnosis, the best treatment strategy can be completely different, depending on a patient's family situation, workplace, financial capacity, and life goals. Some patients value keeping their job for one more year above all else, while others care more about spending their remaining time with minimal pain. AI cannot replace this complex value judgment and relationship design. The creative part of a doctor's work begins precisely here. A doctor must now become not a hand that diagnoses, but a mind that designs the relationship between data and people. Only by handing over the mechanical and repetitive tasks to AI and focusing on the creative work of thinking together about human dignity and the direction of a patient's life can doctors survive as true professionals. AI, primary care, and 24/7 telemedicine must become basic rights. The standard for medical services must now shift from daytime clinic hours, 9 to 5, to care 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. Human doctors need to sleep and rest, but AI and telemedicine platforms can stay awake at 3 a.m. during long holidays and in remote islands and mountain villages. If we truly care about the lives and safety of citizens, 24-hour telemedicine is not a luxury, but a basic right. Imagine a man in his 60s who wakes up at 2 a.m. with chest pain. We cannot leave him alone to wonder, should I hold out until morning and then go to the hospital? He should be able to connect to a 24-hour telemedicine system through his smartphone or TV. AI should immediately classify the symptoms, assess the level of risk, and if necessary, connect him by video with an on-call specialist. If acute myocardial infarction is suspected, the system should instantly coordinate with emergency services, 119 in Korea, for transport. If it is a simple gastric spasm, it should guide him through the emergency self-care he can do at home. Once such a structure is in place, emergency rooms will be able to focus on truly critical patients, and citizens will no longer have to spend sleepless nights in fear. A 24/7 telemedicine system is not about convenience. It is life-saving infrastructure. The same logic applies to AI-based remote monitoring. Digital devices attached to the bodies of patients with heart failure, arrhythmia, diabetes or hypertension, together with smartwatches and glucose sensors, should be sending data around the clock. When AI detects warning signals, it should reach out in advance, advising medication adjustments or a visit to the clinic. With such a system, a significant portion of the tragedies summed up as "he suddenly collapsed" can be prevented beforehand. We must shift the direction of healthcare from hospital-centered to patient-centered today. Korea's healthcare structure is still largely hospital-centered. To receive medical care, patients must fit themselves to the hospital's schedule, the hospital's registration system, and the hospital's sequence of appointments. This is a mindset from the industrial era. In an age shaped by AI and digital technologies, the center of healthcare must move from the hospital to the patient. Patients should be able to review their health information at home, consult first with an AI primary care doctor, and then be guided on which hospital, which doctor, and at what time they should be seen. The hospital should be just one of the options presented by this guidance, while the patient becomes the active subject who chooses the pathway according to their own data and circumstances. To make this possible, a national patient-centered care pathway must be designed. From an FEA perspective, we need to map out a single integrated service system that connects diagnosis, treatment, prescription, rehabilitation, long-term care, and welfare support. Rather than bureaucrat-centered or institution-centered design, we must build standard pathways based on the patient journey and place public healthcare, private healthcare, AI, and human professionals together on that map. In this architecture, 24/7 telemedicine becomes the digital gatekeeper that connects the beginning and end of the patient journey. Public healthcare must own data and standards. Private healthcare must drive innovation and competition. In the era of AI-driven medicine, the roles of public and private healthcare must be redefined. Public healthcare can no longer remain a synonym for cheap hospitals. It must become the national platform that owns data and standards. The core public role is to integrate all data held by the National Health Insurance, claims review bodies, vaccination programs, infectious disease control, national statistics, and local public health centers, and to set national standard codes, clinical guidelines, and AI validation criteria. Public healthcare institutions must function as laboratories to test and validate algorithms before they are applied to the general population. They must be the ones to try out AI on patients of different ages, income levels, regions, and disease groups, and to identify in which groups performance drops and where bias appears. Conversely, private healthcare should be responsible for innovation and competition on top of this public standard. Major hospitals, specialty centers, and digital health startups should develop a wide range of models: 24-hour teleconsultation centers, AI imaging hubs, chronic disease monitoring services, and compete to offer safer and more convenient care. However, that competition must remain strictly within bounds that do not threaten citizens' lives and safety, and the sources of AI data, performance levels, and limitations must be disclosed transparently to the public. AI investment is not a waste of money, it is investment in life-saving infrastructure. Some people ask, do we really need to pour so much money into AI? Why not simply increase the number of doctors and hospitals? On the surface, this may sound reasonable, but in the long term, it is a dangerous way of thinking. First, in a country like Korea, where the population is shrinking and aging, we cannot increase the numbers of doctors and nurses indefinitely. Second, younger generations are already turning away from healthcare, nursing, and caregiving professions. Third, as diseases shift toward chronic conditions, mental health issues, and complex geriatric syndromes, the demand for 24-hour monitoring, repeated checks, and data analysis is exploding. If we try to fill this need solely with human labor, we will face soaring healthcare costs, burnout among healthcare workers, and the collapse of services all at once. AI investment is an investment in life-saving infrastructure that fundamentally transforms this structure. Once an AI system for diagnosis and interpretation is properly built, it does not get tired and can operate 24 hours a day. With the same number of staff, we can care for more patients faster and more accurately. Waiting times in hospitals are reduced, emergency department overcrowding is eased, and duplicate tests and unnecessary admissions are reduced, plugging leaks in health insurance finances. Basic medical services can be delivered around the clock, even in medically underserved areas, such as rural towns, remote islands, military bases, nursing homes, and correctional facilities. This is the real effect of AI investment. But if such investment only inflates the profits of pharmaceutical companies, hospitals, and platform firms, it will have failed. That is why the state must pre-design data governance, standards, and accountability structures. Without that, citizens will once again become the victims of a gigantic commercial fraud. If citizens' health consciousness does not change, no AI doctor will help. Finally, let me speak about the most uncomfortable truth. No matter how perfect our 24-hour telemedicine systems and AI doctors may be, if citizens' attitudes toward health do not change, everything will eventually go back to square one. As long as heavy drinking, smoking, lack of exercise, chronic sleep deprivation, failure to manage stress, and the breakdown of relationships with family and neighbors continue, AI is nothing more than a machine that alerts us to danger a little earlier. From the perspective of relational philosophy, health is an asset that can only be preserved when multiple relationships are simultaneously in order. The relationship between myself and my body, myself and my family, myself and society, and myself and technology. When people ignore their health check results, dismiss the lifestyle changes recommended by doctors, and switch off AI alerts because they find them bothersome, even the most advanced medical systems can only have limited effect. On the other hand, if each individual makes the effort to understand their own health data and takes the lead in caring for their body together with doctors, pharmacists, Korean medicine doctors, and AI tools, then with the very same technology and budget, we can save far more lives. In the age of AI doctors, human doctors must become even more precious. Let me conclude. AI-based medical services are already among us. The mechanical and repetitive parts of a doctor's work can be done better by AI, but the creative work of thinking together about the direction of a human life and of designing the best possible path in light of a patient's family, workplace, and financial reality can only be done by human doctors. Pharmacists and Korean medicine doctors should not treat AI as an enemy, but redefine themselves as lifelong health partners who use 24-hour data and AI analytics. Public healthcare must become the national platform that owns data and standards, while private healthcare must serve as the engine that leads innovation and fair competition. The state, for its part, must pursue 24/7 telemedicine, patient-centered care pathways, and AI-based health management systems not as campaign promises, but as national survival strategies. Above all, citizens themselves must stop hovering passively in front of hospital doors and instead stand as active subjects who take responsibility for their own health and data. Only then, in the era of AI doctors, will human doctors become even more precious and the lives and happiness of our people become markedly safer. Thank you for watching Lee Nam-yong's long commentary.